His passion and his love of innovation are two of the key characteristics that make Charles Dillahunt so good at what he does, which is being seen right now. PGA of America, where he is Studio Productions, Wagering and Gaming Leader. He's going to share his story here on the Onto Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. This is a podcast that shines light on the personal side, but also the business side of those who work in sports and sports media. And I call different sports for different networks. And Charles, it is a thrill to have you on. I am very much looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I feel like I could be your closest friend or an acquaintance from afar. And in following your career and following what you do, there's one inherent common denominator. You love what you do. That comes across pretty easily. And when you love what you do, as we start off this conversation, how does that impact you as the leader you've become today?
I learned early on that if I'm not doing something I love and enjoy, then I'm not going to last very long in it. I'm someone who, when I was in elementary school, got bored early, so they tried to move me up to get harder work. If I'm not doing something challenging, hard, or that I enjoy, I'm just not having a lot of fun. So I somehow worked my way into the golf industry, even though that wasn't what I wanted to do growing up. I didn't even know you could work in golf. I didn't even start playing golf until after my freshman year in college when I stopped playing football at the D3 level. Um, and I somehow worked my way into a position to do three things I love, which is studio production, helping operate a brand new state-of-the-art facility here at PGA Frisco, lead gaming partnerships, video gaming that is for the association, and then also wagering with ESPN Bet, and hopefully more to be announced soon. So I just knew from a young age, and I think I learned it in college when I was working with our career services department at Wabash College in Indiana, where I'm from, um, that if you're not doing something you love, then it's going to be a lot harder to get up and go in the morning. Right now, I'm having daily conversations with 2K Sports, EA Sports, the WWE now, funny enough. And I always find myself in a position through the PGA, and I'm very fortunate to where I'm able to focus on new ventures, and that's not easy in a age-old association over 100 years old, uh, a industry in the golf industry that's not always quick to move, but being able to showcase to my teammates and our members, hey, look at this cool new avenue or venture we could go into. Here's what the NBA or the NHL or whoever else is doing. We should do that, but in our own way. My wife calls me new venture man. So sort of the role I've worked myself into is our leaders know that they can put me on new ventures that are hard and need to be figured out and put into the, how would I call it, like the PGA way. There's a PGA way of doing things, but they also know, our leadership knows we need to innovate too. So I think I've worked myself into this position where I can innovate, but also do it in the PGA's way. Not too fast, not too slow. There's a certain cadence there and a process. But anyway, yeah, I love what I do, and it's because I grew up loving all three of those areas that I'm now working in.
One of the areas that you love and have loved is video games. Your experience in just playing them and immersing yourself and educating yourself on what the growth of video games has been like and how the graphics have improved and the way that the user friendly accessibilities for games is only gotten better. How has your history of actually just playing video games given you insights or even foresights into to that part of your role today?
It's interesting because like you're sort of like a pseudo expert, if you will. Like I've never built a video game, right? But I know the history of our partners. So I've been playing like NBA 2K since like NBA 2K3, which I think Allen Iverson is on the cover of. EA Sports, I've been playing Madden since, gosh, like 2000. I can't remember who was on that cover, maybe Eddie George, but having all that knowledge as a consumer can help you know what consumers look for. And even like my friend group, we all play games together, right? So we're unique in that way to where when I'm talking to these partners, yes, there's a business aspect to it, and that's a part of it that you have to make sure it's fiscally responsible and create an even deal, right? But knowing how they've operated in the past, different collaborations they've had, whether it's starting to insert Nikes and Jordans in, and then updating them live in the game service. And sort of knowing what I look for as a consumer helps me on the business side when I think about the PGA. So I'll give you an example. We just announced a deal with 2K Sports. We're going to be in their PGA Tour 2K25 title that releases on February 28th. So make sure you go and grab that.
Yes,
For
definitely.
the first time in the 2K franchise, you can play three of the four golf majors, the Open, um, the US Open, and the PGA Championship. So it's my role to work with our senior director of global media to make sure that all of our marks, the course, are in the game correctly, following our brand guide. The course is built to spec, as Kerry Haig, who I think is the best championship director in golf, has built it. There's a couple things that are later last minute changes you can't get in there, but for the most part, when people play this game, let's say you bought a ticket and you're going to Quail Hollow this year, you're going to know how to get around that course because you're playing the game that looks exactly like your life. And the level of depth and fidelity that they've taken to make sure that it looks clean and you can see the grass moving and wildlife is just on another level and something that gamers like me look for, right? So there's a lot they like working with me because I'm going to ask them questions, not only from a business standpoint, but hey, have you ever thought about this? Or, and it may be another game in their portfolio. So they make the WWE's game, they make the NBA game. There's different things I see in playing both of those games that I'm like, hey, can we do that in the golf game? And can we do it with the PGA Championship? How do we get more PGA Championship gear that when I'm at the merch shop in Quail Hollow this year that I can buy in real life? What if I could buy that for my player too? So we're working with different brands to make sure that that crossover is there as well. For the first time ever, that we're going to sell a video game in the merch tent at Quail Hollow at the
Wow.
PGA Championship in partnership with Legends. So getting them immersed in that way, because it's interesting without giving away too much of the secret sauce, you have to be at a certain level to come on site as a partner. And it's finding ways to integrate 2K with our other partners to help elevate all parties. I truly believe collaboration is a big key to a lot of success. And 2K is open to that. They've essentially said, what's important to you and how can we help elevate? And it's promoting PGA of America professionals first and foremost and what they do to help grow the game every day around the country. And then second, it's getting our brand out there. I mentioned I didn't start playing golf till I was in college. I was going to a PGA Pro and didn't know I was going to a PGA Pro and how special they are. So if I can do something very small and insert our brand and PGA of America professionals into a game and help others find and this massive player base that 2K has, a PGA professional, and how impactful they can be in your life, like that's an honor for me. So because once I had a PGA Pro, my golf game got better, obviously, but he became a mentor, and I still keep in contact with him today. I walk down the hall at PJ Frisco, and there's a million of them that I can tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I'm slicing. Can you come help straighten me out a little bit?" So, and I can only imagine, like, I've never met someone who I've taken out to the golf course and shown how fun golf can be that doesn't like it or doesn't want to try to get better at it, right? So it's just exposing that who we serve, our members, and what they can do for golf. And we have some pretty cool collaborations coming up that I'm excited to show to the world. And that's why, like, you see me smiling and laughing, like it's just fun to me. Like sometimes, like in our first meeting, I was so nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, I've been playing their games my whole life. And there was a little bit of imposter syndrome. And then you realize halfway through, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like you're meant to be here. Which is funny to say now, but me and Bryce Yang at 2K, we're closer than ever and have a lot of cool crossover collaborations this year we're going to share.
I'm sure that those are. I'm guessing those are kept secret until there's going to be like a public announcement, or how does that all work?
No, I just mentioned a couple of them. Like they're going to be on site at the PJ Championship. They're actually going to be in our partner ESPN Bets tent, helping elevate that experience. I can't share all the details there yet, but um, we also have collaborated with them across their portfolio, namely the WWE. So you're going to see some cool, innovative, never before done content that includes PGA professionals helping wrestlers to be named get better at golf.
Look at that. I like it.
So there, I mean, that's the thing about golf is like there's golf nuts everywhere in every industry. And when I'm there, they want to talk to me about golf and I want to talk to them about what they're doing. So then there just becomes this synergy of, well, let's elevate each other. I mean, you want to get better, you want to become scratch. We have 30 plus thousand PGA professionals around the country that can help you do that. Trust me, I can attest to it. And you have a platform, we want to grow their namesakes and brands. Like, let's do it together. And then that's how it happens. And They love golf, we love what they do, and it's a win-win.
You mentioned like there was one point in your career where there was that imposter syndrome. When did it become clear to you that you had been validated or that you had validated yourself and that you belonged? When did that moment of belonging really sit with you?
I still don't think I have it. Uh, and it's because like I'm someone who I told you I get bored easily, right? If I'm not doing something hard. I always want to move on to the next thing. What's next? What's next? And I don't take enough time to smell the roses because I think you can get complacent if you do that. And the job's not done. Like it's just that like Tom Brady, job's not done mentality. Keep going. There's something else out there. Someone else is out there working harder. And I don't think we will ever be able to accomplish everything or get to the rate of expanding knowledge of who we are and what we do is, or at least that's the mindset I take. And that way I come to work every day motivated, driven, hungry to do more. Now, I am more comfortable, but I just don't like the thought of complacency. And I think that's mostly it. And I want to do a great job. Like I am honored to be able to work for this, like one of the largest sports organizations in the world. And the responsibilities they've given me do not come lightly. I had a hard time breaking into the sports industry, just as any college student does. And being from Indianapolis, there were teams there that I wanted to work for that I just didn't have the experience at the time, or they didn't think I had the experience at the time to invest in me at that time. Right, I graduated in 2017, and then this opportunity with the PGA of America came up, and what I was telling myself at the time, because I was applying everywhere on Teamwork Online, the first team, organization, association that takes a chance on me will never regret it. And I'll make sure that I'm the hardest worker in the room, or at least one of them. And there will be no doubt that they made the right decision. And that's sort of the approach that I take every day. And why I think that, like, I just don't, I don't know. That's why that imposter syndrome's there is like, this is the PGA of America. It's a big deal. I highly respect our professionals and what they do every day. And if I have the responsibility to help grow their brand and namesake, like, I couldn't ask for anything more. So,
I could see just a little bit of that imposter syndrome actually makes you better at what you do because you said
yeah.
it takes away from the comfort of complacency. But this, you believe in me, you take a chance on me, and I am not going to let you down. The the foundation of that mindset, where was that first instilled in you?
So I'm a philosophy major. Working in, so get this, philosophy major, business minor, working in the golf industry. And what philosophy taught me, my favorite philosopher is Friedrich Nietzsche. And he has a couple things I love. The first one is that which doth not kill me makes me stronger. Right. So while I have imposter syndrome, I know I'm not going to die from being nervous or not thinking I belong. So let's go through this and you'll be better on the back end from it. And that's where the comfortability I have now working at the PGA comes from is like just having the experience, learning the ropes, and you find your way eventually. Um, but that philosophy major taught me how to build strong foundations in business arguments, things of that nature. And remind me of your question because I'm rambling again. I'm sorry.
You are not rambling again, and you certainly are not. But I guess basically my question would be this inherent desire to want to do a really good job. And like you were saying that when you're first coming out of college, that there were some professional teams probably in the Indianapolis area that
Yeah.
maybe they didn't think you had the experience yet, and you had to pivot and find a way to go to where you could fulfill your passions. And you said to yourself, whatever team, whatever organization takes a chance on me, I'm not going to let them down. But that idea of just not wanting to let somebody down, where did that become fostered within you internally to now you see it play out every day?
So that's where I was going with the philosophy major is like Nietzsche, I mentioned, who's my favorite. Like it's that which doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. But then also blaze your own path. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. Um, a superhuman in his mind was someone that blazed their own trail, their own path in life, and didn't let outside voices knock them off of their path, right? And just knowing that one as a guiding philosophy of my life, and then also like wanting to be great. And it sounds so silly when I say it out loud, but where I'm from, small town of Terre Haute, Indiana, there weren't a lot of people working in the sports industry. There was one, I think he was an athletic trainer for the Indiana Pacers, but that wasn't my passion, right? So it wasn't really helpful. I didn't see anyone doing what I was doing, and I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. I researched like people in careers that I loved, and I was like, okay, there's a way you can get there at some point, but let's figure it out. So that's where Blazing Your Own Trail comes in. And once I got along the path and got internships, my first internship was in the soccer industry for almost 2 years. And I was in partnerships with Indy 11 professional soccer in Indianapolis. And I think through that experience, what was funny to me was like I was taking things from my philosophy classes that are like these age-old questions from eons ago, that philosophers were talking about what does it mean to exist? What does it mean to be a responsible citizen? And I was applying those like through to the business world and what I was doing in an internship. And from there, that's where I started to feel like, oh, I can do this. I belong. Like, as long as I find the right opportunity, I can have success in sports. And that's where I also met great people, great executives, great leaders. I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan, who has the #1 podcast in the world. I'm a huge Tom Brady guy, who's, in my opinion, the best football player of all time, the best quarterback of all time. And what happens is like you start to notice a trend with great people. Great people do sort of the same things, but in different ways in different industries. And a lot of them have that thought of, all right, what's next? It's not enough. We got to do more. And there's balance to that. And I've learned that the hard way is like, you can't always go, go, go. You've got to rest. um, I learned that in my life. But that's where it comes from is like blazing my own trail, lack of opportunity, limited opportunity when I was younger, and knowing that, hey, if you're not doing your job well, there may be some other guy or gal
Yeah.
that's about to graduate that takes your spot. So not wanting to lose my spot. I'm getting TMI deep here, but
No, you're
that's sort of
not.
where
This is great.
it's like one, wanting to be great, two, wanting to do great things, and then three, like being able to provide for my family, provide opportunity, do cool things, do fun things, help others. That's a big thing for me is helping others. And the fact that I get to help our professionals tell their stories and showcase what they do day to day, because they're not just all golf professionals. Yes, they love golf and they're great players, but a lot of them do other things, whether it's being an anchor or broadcast television or teaching yoga. They're humans, so they have multiple interests, and they're some of the most amazing people on earth. But anyway, that's where it comes from, and uh, why I sort of have that mindset.
You're helping others, and others are also noticing the work you've done. And you go from college and sort of trying to figure out where your life is going to take you as far as there were some teams professionally that you're like, gosh, it would have been great to work with them, but then you find this great path with PGA of America. And even in those probably frustrating moments in college where you're like, why doesn't this person think I have the experience or this organization? 2 years later, being recognized by Sports Business Journal as a member of the 2023 class of New Voices Under 30. When you were coming out of college and you were juggling things and trying to figure out your way, if I were to tell you that years later that your work would be noticed by Sports Business Journal, what would the younger version of you think in those moments of like, what am I going to do? Where is my life going to take me?
I don't know what I would have thought because it was like it was a pretty hard time for me just because there was an opportunity and you never know. And luckily, Sandy Cross saw my resume, and it's funny. I actually applied for an internship here. They told me I was overqualified, but there was another position available, and I was like, "Yes, please let me apply." Luckily, she saw me, believed in me, interviewed me, flew me down, and the rest is history. But I don't know. Like, if you would have told me, what are we? I graduated 8 years ago. If you would have told me 8 years ago, you're going to be leading gaming, wagering, and a studio facility for the PGA of America. One, I would have asked you, what's the PGA of America? Because I had no idea. Two, I would have said, wow, that sounds pretty fun. there's a lot of things that have happened, moving to Florida, now moving to Texas and being in North Dallas. And I knew I was going somewhere. It was just for me tricking myself into saying, you don't know where you're going, but it's going to be good. Just keep going, one foot in front of the other. Keep working hard. Keep being undeniable. Like that's my goal is just be undeniable. And from there, I'll accomplish all my goals, providing for my family, being a great father, which is new, coming in January, being a great husband, and then also just being a good human being, treating others well, providing experiences that maybe I wish I had on my way up through the industry that I didn't. And I know that someone else, some young man or woman could benefit from and sharing that knowledge so that the next generation is ready to go. But I have a lot of time left, so
You do. And speaking of the next generation, being a father and welcoming that next generation into the world, how much do you feel like what you're learning is eventually going to then be shared with your little one, and in terms of taking everything that you're talking about and getting that opportunity to bestow that on your child?
um, my hope would be to share everything I know with them, right? Hopefully they don't get too bored when dad nerds out over philosophers or sayings from philosophy, but I really love to mentor. So I've done it. There's a small sort of squad of mentees of mine, which is crazy to say because I'm not that much older than them. But when I see talent, I love to help harness it and showcase to people because I have that imposter syndrome. I like to make sure other people know they're talented and know that they have a place in this industry too. Because when you don't know anyone or no one in your family's done this, it's hard to get recognized and noticed. And if I can make a small intro or a small connection, I'm going to take that minute or two out of my day to do it because who knows what will come from it. A job, something that changes someone's life trajectory. I was scratching and clawing when I was in college to just get an opportunity. So if I can help provide that for someone else, it's going to happen. And I've had plenty of mentors that were older than me that said, "Hey, I'm going to do this for you as long as you make sure you do this for the next generation on their way up." So I'm indebted and I have to do that. But yeah, I hope to share all that knowledge with my daughter who's on the way. And hopefully she wants it and takes it and can learn a little bit from that.
And we'll join you on the golf course at some point.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll get
If
her out.
if you're to picture what that would be like, how much joy would you feel?
Oh, an immense amount of joy. Um, I'm someone who grew up without a father figure in the household. It was me and my mother and my two sisters. So it means a lot to me to take on this fatherhood journey and be instrumental in someone's life because I know what it feels like to not have that and to have to look externally to get it. So now that I'm able to provide that, it's going to be one of the greatest privileges in my life. So
You said it that you've looked externally. I feel like in this business as a whole, it can be hard to get external validation because everybody is sort of they're doing their thing, they're trying to do their work, and there's tunnel vision going out there, and getting validation, at least from my experience, and I don't want to speak for you at all, but it can basically sometimes I realize that you're doing a good job when you don't hear anything. So the validation is hard to find. But when and how has that process of how you're doing in terms of validating yourself in this journey? Because you said it earlier, it's hard to smell the flowers because you've got vision and you're seeing that out and you're ambitious. But when could you find that time to validate yourself, and how hard or how easy is that to get into where you can be in a place where you validate you and who you are and what you've done, and regardless of whatever validation you get from coworkers or friends or family?
I think I've learned to do it, but just in short lengths of time, right? Like if I sit and celebrate something for 2 weeks, I'm gonna be behind on something else. And coming up, you just don't know that, especially if you don't have people in business that have had major successes tell you or show you how to celebrate something. So now it looks like going to get ice cream or something and looking at my wife and saying, "Can you believe I just did that? Like I used to dream about it." This past weekend, I was at the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis, 2K and WWE. And I told you we're planning that content series. So it was there scheduling those things out, but it was like a backstage tour, walking down the ramp to the ring, touching the ring, the ropes, everything that like when I'm bored, I'm a huge TKO group guy. When I'm bored at home, I'm watching UFC content or WWE content. And most people say like, why? It's scripted. And I'm like, yeah, but it's entertainment. And they're some of the, I think they are the best storytellers in the world. So that's what I do. And like just being there, like it was like, who knew? Like I would be working in golf, doing a crossover collaboration with one of the other largest sports organizations in the world that's in a completely different industry with the top video gaming manufacturer in the world. And now, like, I'm backstage with them planning content, and it's like all the things I used to watch behind the scenes videos on, and I'm now doing it. So I had a moment where I just stopped and I was like, whoa, like, this is crazy. And I called my wife before we went out to our seats, and I was like, can you believe I'm here? And she's like, yeah, like soak it in. So I always make sure to stop at one point for 30 seconds and say, whoa, this is really cool. But then I quickly snap out of it and I'm back to normal. And I'll give you a good story. So in 2019, it's my first year with the company. I started on January 14th. 4 or 5 months later, I get asked a week before the PGA Championship, hey, we need some social media help. Do you want to go help our content team? Yeah, let's do it. And I'd never been to a golf major. So I'm there and they tell me, hey, your first day, you're going to be following the group of Tiger Woods, Brooks Koepka, and Francesco Molinari for the next 2 days. And then we'll do your Saturday, Sunday group based on who makes it. So I'm 5 feet from Tiger Woods. One, I'm astonished because I didn't know he was like 6'2" ish and chiseled. And it was one of those moments where I was like, what am I doing here? Fast forward to Sunday, Brooks is in the lead from start to finish. And I'm walking up 18 with him. And I actually have the photo of Bethpage. It's timely because we're going back there this year for the Ryder Cup. But I'm walking up 18 with Brooks. He's pretty much got it in the bag. And that was like a time, like in that moment where I was like, just stop here and soak this in. You're inside the ropes on 18, Championship Sunday of the PGA Championship. Would you have ever dreamed you were here? And it's just that level of access that makes me so grateful. It's because the opportunities this association has provided me have been like once in a lifetime experiences. Um, so yeah, in those times, like in the moment, I'll stop and smell it, but then it's like, all right, back to the job, more to do. So yeah,
There are so many people that you've helped, and there are so many people who have believed in you to get to these moments where you are able to soak in these momentous occasions in your career, and many more of those to come, obviously. Those and again, this I would hate to ask you this question because there's always that fear of like there's so many people who have believed in you and mentors that you'd forget somebody. And we want all of them to be recognized as a whole, but the people that were first in your corner, and when you are searching for that identity in your career and they saw something in you, what power did that have, and who are those people that put themselves out there for you? And part of the reason why you've got your drive is because you want to show those people that what they did was right.
yeah. So there's three, well, four now. Casey Morton's my senior manager now, or senior director, sorry. And coming onto his team 2 years ago is kind of scary. Like we had talked before in my previous role because I had sort of leaned in and just helped in different areas of the business. He said, hey, there may be a gaming role that comes available. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, sure. But at the time, I would have had to leave my reporting role to three executives I'll mention in a second. But since I made the jump, like he makes himself available at all times, gives me the guidance I need to really be successful in my career and also the freedom to create and innovate. And he's like, all right, go make it happen. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll scrap it and do something else. So he's incredible now, newer, but still like an incredible professional who's been all over the sports industry and done great things. It started with, from a professional standpoint, a gentleman named Mike Cannon, Indy 11. He's the guy who called in to draft Reggie Miller back in the day for the Pacers, but he shifted to soccer at the end of his career. Taught me so much of business development. Then you get to the PGA, and I have a woman named Sandy Cross, who's our chief people officer. I spent my first year and 4 months reporting to her. And like I said, the first day I asked her, like, treat me like what I need to be treated to get to an executive level. And She taught me who people were, how they reacted, what did they want to see before a meeting and after a meeting and follow up. How will they react to certain approaches that you bring to them, and who's good to push a little, who's good to just be a little more conservative with. She gave me a 101 of the PGA of America, and I'm forever indebted to her because a lot of my success here has been following strategy she's learned in her career here, which has been, I think, over 22 years at this point, but and applying those. A year and 4 months later, our CEO taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, I sort of admire your work here. I've spent years on Wall Street and elsewhere in the golf industry, but I need to focus on DEI. Will you help me do it?" So I'm like shocked. I do it. That was just it was strategic projects as assigned. And a year later, our chief commercial officer gets added to my role. So I'm now managing up these three executives, right? With Seth Wall, who was our former CEO and just stepped down earlier this year or late last year. He taught me so much about the business space and just creating relationships and crossover and treating people well, treating people like humans. We are all human. We can get distracted by that, but by our jobs. But if you treat people human, they're going to respect you and treat you human as well. I worked on the West Palm Golf Park, led the marketing for the West Palm Golf Park before it was launched in, I want to say 2021, 2022. And just being in that room with these influential Palm Beach County golfers that had so much experience. Seth, that's because of Seth. He brought me in, he put me under his wing. He taught me how business really works behind the scenes. And I'm like forever indebted to him too, because of him, I can get a deal done now. And then Jeff Price, who I still ultimately report into, but has been a mentor of mine, sought me out 3 years ago, said, "I believe in you and I think you can do special things." And that came from 2 or 3 years of work with Sandy and Seth, where now people were starting to notice that I had some sort of skill in things. And it's hearing those leaders say, "We're proud of you, you're doing a good job," but also saying, like, "Hey, you misstepped there, and here's how we're going to course correct." Hearing the good and the bad, constructive criticism, but then also praise when I need it is, I've gotten that a lot. And I'm fortunate to have gotten that and spent a lot of time with these executives because that's where I ultimately want to be, right? I want to be a leader and I want to lead an association to their promised land, whatever that may be. So it's super important for me to hear that feedback. I don't seek it out. I normally hate doing interviews like this. I know you've been trying to get me for a while, like helping others and putting them forth and not necessarily putting myself in front of others. And I learned that from those three executives who did so much behind the scenes, went through so many things, and I've had long conversations with them about things they've done. And I'll say, "Why did you go that extra mile?" It says, "Because it's the right thing to do. It's best for business." So I could talk to you all day about all three of them, but those three, 4 or 5 people have been the biggest influences in my career and really helped set me on a path to be successful. And when Jeff asked me to take this new role, it was almost like a big brother conversation, right? Like, "Hey, like you love these things. You will do such a good job at them. Believe in yourself." Because he saw that imposter syndrome kicking in a little bit. And it took that conversation and a little bit of a kick in the butt to say, "You know what, I can do this. Let's go do some fun stuff." So anyway, those are just five. Sorry, I rambled again.
You did not ramble. No, these are good stories, and your storytelling is fantastic. And I love how you eventually were like, "Yeah, it would be great to be on the podcast," because I think what you've seen, what you're realizing, and you already knew this, but like the stories that you share can have an untold amount of impact on people who watch these, the younger generation. So never do I want it. I mean, obviously, you have such an interesting story, and I want to highlight that. But I also look at these chats as a way to be like motivating for others, and you fit all that criteria. So the moment that you came on today, as we wrap up this conversation, you're going to have, as you have and you've set out to do, as you've talked about, helping others is a big part of what you are all about. This is just another content platform where you're going to be able to do that. And I appreciate you going down these roads with me. getting to learn about your personality, getting to learn about your drive and your coworkers and the things that you're building, and even giving us a hint of what's to come, some of the passion projects. And I feel pretty privileged to get to know some of those things that are soon to be on the docket here with what you're doing. As Charles Dillahunt, Studio Productions Wagering and Gaming Leader, joins me on Bryan Fenley. Charles, this was a blast, man. I'm so thankful that you made the time, and I learned a ton, and I know a lot of people will get a lot out of this conversation as well.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate you having me, and we'll chat soon when you come visit Frisco.